When you're ready. Morning, Sam.
Morning.
A couple of days in, how have the players responded?
Has it only been a couple of days?
How have the players responded? What are you seeing on the training ground from them? And have you managed to get enough work into them to give you the confidence that you can go to Manchester City and to get a win?
Well, I think that first, in terms of response, I couldn't be any more pleased about the fact that the players have aired the views, which is very important for me about how to go forward. We've come together and put a plan together to start as quickly as possible with a couple of days we've had to only talk about Manchester City and the big task we do have in front of us. And then we've gone on to the training ground and into this room to analyse the best way we can to play on Saturday. And then around that we've been listening to a lot of the staff that's already here about what the player can and cannot do and what is his best position and how best does he play and in what system does he play the best. So we've done all that and formulated an idea, and we will tell them the starting 11 this morning when they finally finish a bit of analysis when we've got rid of you lot, because they'll come in here and we'll finish off. So and we'll be on the pitch to do the final bits and pieces, and then they can get off and we can get to Manchester.
You made a few headlines on Wednesday with your comment about Pep, Klopp and Arteta, but how much are you relishing that tactical battle this weekend with Pep?
I love the man. I think he's brilliant. I think he's done a huge amount for the Premier League since he's been here, and I think that when you see what he's achieved, and I know we can talk about it, the backing, which is every successful football club. It's not just the coach or the players. It's the backing behind that, the recruitment behind that, and the recruitment that they've had has been spot on, and his management style over the years has been fabulous. The sad thing is for us is they're in the best form they've been in all season because they've won 9 on the trot. So we hope we can find them a space or two to cause them some problems, and if we get a chance we'd have to score. I don't think we could afford to miss any chances or opportunities we might get in City's box. We'd have to be ruthless, clinical, and defensively the team will have to be the best it's been this season, which obviously has been a bit frail, but we're going to try and put that right, obviously, while we've been here.
You managed over 500 games in the Premier League, so you're in a good position to judge. Is this the best ever Premier League team?
I'm not so sure I can go that far, because it's been so long I've been in the Premier League. So when you go back to Sir Alex's treble team, was that the best one? It's difficult to say, but it'd be 1 or 2 that for sure between them two. I think. I don't think there's anybody else can match the Sir Alex Ferguson era and now Pep's.
Thank you, Sam.
Adam. Morning, Sam.
Morning.
How have you managed to rebuild them mentally, would you say, in the last 48 hours?
I can smile and ask the players to try and come in and put a smile back on their face and try and lighten the training somewhat. All the staff, there's nothing better than Robbie Keane for that, by the way. So he's gotten amongst the players, he's joined in, he's done a bit of coaching with them. We've got Carl who's the same, so we've created a bit of an atmosphere like we like to create and how we like to work, on the fact that the training ground is a nice place to come, and of course that doesn't feel like that with the results Leeds have had recently. It's a bit of doom and gloom, and we have to try and lift that, of course, and then obviously we can lift that to a certain degree, but the only way we really lift it in the end is to start getting the result. And we have to try and do that starting Saturday, because there's only 4 games left to survive in the Premier League.
Just listen to what you said before to Tim, Sam. So how will you look tomorrow? Will it be square pegs, square holes?
And round pegs in round holes. Yeah, well, as best we can fit where they would prefer to play, with the tactics in mind, and obviously there's 2 ways we play that I think they've lost. In possession, I've always seen them to be very, very good. So there's not an awful lot of work needs to be done from that point of view. But out of possession recently has been, as everybody can see by the goals they've conceded, something that needed most of the work on in the short period of time we've had. So you balance the 2. In possession, fine. Carry on the way you carry on to try and create and open opportunities, but make sure, when you lose the ball, you block off the openings. And if you don't do that against Manchester City, you're going to be facing a big problem.
Personnel-wise then, Sam, are you able to say who you have and who you don't have to?
I've only got Dallas, Adams, Sinistera and Cooper injured. So the rest around that will be picking a team and a system today.
And you said the other day that obviously the back 5 are being exposed horribly, so can we expect change to be made in the midfield in front of them?
You can expect a system that you'll see when we give the team out tomorrow. That's about as much as I can say.
Manchester City, obviously West Ham stayed in it for a while the other night. What is the key? Was it more about what Man City did, or was it about what West Ham didn't do after that? And is that something that you'll have to consider yourself?
Well, what we saw, and obviously I know Moyes really, really well. I think, and he'd be the most disappointed man, because they did so well and slipped up on a free kick. And I mean, if you're going to work that hard and go that long and frustrate a Manchester City, the last thing you want to do is give them away a goal off a set play that you should have defended better. Like you mean, so it's trying to avoid everything that Man City do for as long as you can. But also, what's very important is not giving possession away too often. So when you get possession, make sure you keep it. And if that's the case, you can get up the pitch and try and create something against the opposition. But if you switch off for a minute like West Ham did, and then of course finally in the end they won quite comfortably, but up to then it was looking very good. But that's why Manchester City have won 9 on the trot. They'll score, or can score, many different ways with the quality that they've got. So we have to block all the opportunities they might be able to create and try and create some ourselves.
If you can talk about one player, Sam, you mentioned Patrick Bamford the other day and how key he could be here for you. Because of that, has his chest been puffed out these last few days? Have you made him feel particularly big, if you like?
I've tried to make everybody feel better. I try to have a lot of conversations with lads who've come in the office, lads who want to chat in the office. I've lots of conversations on the training ground, nothing to do with football or coaching, just life in general, just to see and find out the personality, and try and have a little more light-hearted conversation here and there. Find out more about them gives you a better understanding of everybody, and then like I said, get on the pitch and do the business, do the talking on the pitch now. I can talk here as much as I can, but I want the players to go out and show that we've made a difference, and they're passionate enough to keep fighting all the way to the very end.
Thank you.
Morning. On a personal level, what's the weekend going to be like for you back in your usual environment on the touchline, the centre of attention, a big game?
Saturday morning I'll be pretty nervous, making sure, I think, and hope that nothing pops up. The physio rings and says, touch your body's overnight got a temperature or And so you want to avoid anything like that because you've done your plans and you pick your team and you put into the mind what we need to do, and then you have to disrupt that by somebody having to drop out the starting 11. Finish off a few little bits and pieces in the final meeting on the game before we travel from the hotel to the ground. Short and sharp, punchy for me, and then the nerves carry on until the kick-off. Once the kick-off happens, then the nerves disappear to me because I'm totally focused on what's happening on the pitch then. And then after the game, who knows? I'd like to be able to smile, but that will be one magnificent result if we get one for me.
You mentioned the fact they can score for anywhere. Do you make special plans for Erling Haaland?
Yeah. I think that but there's also supply. Stop the supply, and stop the big man getting as many chances as he gets, and then you limit his chances for scoring. So stop the supply, but keep an eye on him at all times, particularly in the final third.
Brett?
Morning, Sam. Is Liam Cooper going to be able to play again this season?
I have no idea. There's no disrespect, but injuries cannot, apart from how quick are they going to be fit. Yes, I would be interested every day on when and whether he might get back, but I haven't really focused on that because I was told that he wouldn't be fit for this game. So I've only been focused on the players who would be fit to play in this match.
Can you surprise an opposition manager at this stage of the season? Given that he knows your players quite well.
There can be an element of surprise for me because Pep won't know what I'm. He can second guess based on what I've done in the past, but that was quite a while ago, and it's a different team, and I've got different players who have different strengths and weaknesses. So there can be an element of surprise that he thinks, how are we going to set up, what are we going to do, how are we going to try and do it. So let's hope a bit of element of surprise may work in our favour in the early stages. Of course, once you see what's happening, then you, as a coach, as a manager, you don't get surprised more than 5 or 10 minutes what the opposition are doing.
Morning, Sam. You spoke about Illan Meslier, the goalkeeper, on Wednesday when we spoke. What have you seen since in training from Illan and where his mental state is at?
Well, I don't ever see a problem in training because there's no real pressure there like there is in the game. So with the goalkeeper coach working with him, there's nothing you can see to suggest or say anything other than you look at him and he does like all the keepers do together. They go through the routine. They are a bit daft, a bit mad, aren't they? Because they love doing what they do. And if you did that for a player, that the outfield player would get really bored. But the goalkeepers love it. So they're right a good pack together, aren't they? You know what I mean? They're like a little family of their own. So that will help him hopefully. But that for me lies to be one of the probably the biggest decision I have to make today.
Since Tyler Adams was injured, there has been a focus on central midfield and the options available in this squad. What have you seen in your analysis so far of Mark Rocker, Weston McKennie, and even Adam Forshaw, who you will know by now has had a lot of injury issues?
Make the midfield as strong as we possibly can, especially against Manchester City.
Thank you.
Stuart?
Morning, Sam. Obviously, the next 4 games are just about, really about how many points you can get. But given that it's Manchester City, will you reflect? What will you reflect more on, the results or the performance?
I think that the fact of the matter is performance defensively, because it's just been so poor in the last few games, and why are Man City top of the league? Because it's got the best defensive record. You know, when you look at Manchester City, they're defensively the best at everything. Obviously, the general public don't look at that, but it's why they're at the top now. You know, because other teams can have just as good attackers and strikers and score as many goals or score more goals, but Manchester City score goals and then have the best defensive record, and that's why they win the league. So you have to put the two together. So if you're at the bottom, you take over a football club. Every time you take over a football club in desperate need, it's because the goal difference is so bad. They concede so many more goals than they score. It's why they're where they are.
You talk about taking over a team in desperate need. At Huddersfield last night, Neil Warnock was saying a lot of similar things to you about putting smiles on faces and laughs around the place.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that's easier for you guys.
I can only it's going to be a trio. So there's Roy, Neil, and me, and I hope I get something similar to that in terms of results in the next 4 games, like you mean. So it'd be good for the oldies, wouldn't it?
I just wonder, is it easier to create that atmosphere when your reputation's kind of solidified? The next 4 games aren't going to change how people view you.
The players have to buy in, and I have to extract the best out of the player. That's my job. So we will find out starting 3 o'clock tomorrow. Irrespective of the result, if I get a really good response from the players, you know, that'll be at the start of hopefully getting out of trouble.
Morning, Sam.
Morning.
Have you brought in a psychologist, and are you likely to do so?
We already have one. I don't know unfortunately I can't remember her name, sorry. Yeah, we do have one. I'm not going to give it now, sorry, no. Yeah, we do. We've already got one apparently, so I have met her as well. So.
And given that your predecessor sort of compared the team and the players to a boxer that's kind of punch drunk, you know, trying to get on their feet and staggering, psychologically, do you think there's a problem that something's kind of, an elastic's kind of snapped in their collective mindset?
That's a very tricky question, that one. Very answer about that, isn't it? Something snapped. Mind is everything, and I have to control and talk to the players about controlling the mind, about mindfulness, about concentration on positive thinking. There's a huge amount of research and about when you're not here, because when we're here, everything's going on about training technically, tactically. You talk about the mindset and all that, but a player can bring himself in a very good mindset by relaxing at home and starting to think positively about his game, about how he plays his game, about when he played his best game, who did he play it against, and he's putting these positive thoughts into his mind, and he's getting himself better prepared to go out and play better. So you can talk about it. I've talked about it. Sports psychologists talk about it. Whether the player takes the time out when he gets home, we don't know. We can't say that, really. We just hope that they do, because it's proven by the research that it makes a difference. And every little helps. And, of course, you play in the Premier League because you've got the best football brain. That's why you play in the Premier League. Because it operates all your motor skills and all your decision-making processes. So that's why you play in the Premier League. You can have a much more skillful player in the lower divisions, but unfortunately their brain doesn't work as quick as the lads who are playing the Premier League, so they can't adopt them skills as well as they can or should.
Can I ask what you think is going wrong defensively, Sam? Specifically, what needs to change with this team?
Protection. There's the protection from every player has to defend when they lose the ball, so it's an 11-11. So when you haven't got the ball, you're 11 defenders. When you have got the ball, you're 11 attackers. And I think that's, you know, it sounds simple, but obviously sometimes it's a bit more difficult to get your front men. And obviously another manager might not see it like that, you know, because you can go and watch abroad, and I've watched abroad many times where they front three don't defend, and they sit in holes and sit in pockets waiting for the rest to win it back and play from there. In the Premier League, you can't have that luxury. you know, because Manchester City don't do it. They don't have any of those, like I mean, so we can't afford any either. So from the front men to the midfield to the back four and the goalkeeper, when we lose the ball, we all have to be compact and we all have to do our bit. Because, you know, if whoever's playing up front stops a penetrating pass tomorrow, he's doing a great defensive job. I'm not asking him to tackle and win it back, but I am asking him to make life difficult for that defender to pass it to one of Manchester City's players.
How big a factor is leadership for you, and how much do you see in this squad? Because it has been asked a few times over the past few weeks.
I'll find out a little more about who's. You know, there's a lot of strong players with character that have been in the last couple of days who, you know, speak out and you can hear them talking in, and then you've got your quieter ones like you mean who just want to do the training and get on with it. So you can pick out one or two of those there, like you know what I mean. So, but when things are not going so well, it can be very difficult to voice an opinion to somebody about how good or how bad they're playing when you're not playing so good yourself. So you end up like not contributing from that point of view, because it's not an easy job to speak out if your game's not in the right place. So you've got to focus on your game and then help somebody else.
Thank you.
Right. Sam, you talked about changing the atmosphere in the training ground. Is there any rules you brought in or changes of policy, something that you've asked of the players to help that?
Not particularly, because they're pretty disciplined. I haven't caught any lates yet, and that's unusual. I see everybody turning up on time, doing what they're doing, but I have a different approach. So I communicate with the players where often other managers wouldn't. I don't just talk about football, I talk about all sorts. And if I find an opportunity to crack a joke, sometimes they look at me a bit funny, saying, does he really mean that or not? But yeah, when I start laughing, hopefully they see the funny side of it, like you mean. So it's a communication level that doesn't need to get them better, doesn't need to be talked about coaching or sessions, because everybody does sessions, everybody does coaching sessions, everybody has their coaching sessions and tactics. But if you talk in general, between the 3 to 4 hours that we're here together, and that might be in the canteen, might be on the pitch, might be in my office, it might be. So I'm trying to make players feel comfortable in expressing not just expressing their abilities as a player, but expressing what they think. So if they feel comfortable with me, they can express something of what they might think or might help us to overcome this difficult situation. Because in the end, they're the only ones who can be responsible for the success of Leeds. I can guide as much as I can, but they can be the only ones who can get us out of trouble.
With so much work to so little time, do you envisage any days off at all for these players? I know it's an important...
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All the rubbish that spouts out from everywhere else other than the training ground to say you keep them in for 6 hours a day is the biggest load of poppycock I've ever heard in my entire life. Brain space, shut it down, the players will shut off and they won't be able to perform. And then you'll say, well, he doesn't look like he's fit, he doesn't look like he cares, he doesn't run around. Well, he can't run around because mentally he's absolutely shot at. So spending some time with the family and resting up. I mean, if they're not fit now, they're never going to be fit. There's only 4 games to go.
David, hi Sam. Did you see what Pep said about you the other night, and off the back of your comments?
Unfortunately, I haven't, no, because I've been far too busy here in this room and watching games tactically, technically, set pieces, how they conceded the goals, like you mean. So I haven't seen any news or any. I didn't see the whole of the game last night. Not last night. West Ham, Man City game. Didn't see all of it. Got some highlights, but because it was too important for me to be here with the staff to try and get through all what we needed to get through to give them the best chance we can for Saturday.
You said basically you Roy and Neil have got incredible experience. You know the game perfectly. You help them be where they are today. So obviously that's nice that he respects the oldies, as you said it.
Well, it's nice to say that we've always got on. I think for the years he's been here, and when we bumped into each other, and I've obviously met him with at the LMA events and stuff like that. You know, especially when he wins it. You know, get a bit jealous then, like, you know. But there you go. But he's a great guy, and his knowledge is fantastic on what he's done and what he's achieved. Like you mean, so it's great to be pitting your wits against coaches like him. So and in the Premier League in general, that's where you want to be if you want to be a player or a coach or a physio or a sports psychologist or whatever you want to be. The Premier League is the only place to be in this country.
You talk about the importance of recruitment. How much easier is Pep's job made by having Erling Haaland up front?
Well, I think that the reason that your team becomes more successful sometimes by one player only, is that you've managed to attract him to your football club. You've managed to persuade him to come, and that's made Manchester City a completely different. They function much more differently now up front than they did when they didn't have one, because they've had to change from no striker to not just the biggest goal-scoring striker, but one of the biggest players in the league. Now, he's not the biggest centre. I'm sure he'd be the biggest centre forward in the league, wouldn't he? Ivan Toney, be close, would he? Brentford, and he's some player as well, like, isn't he?
Just on a different topic, the players came out as a group and apologised to the fans at the beginning of the week before you came in for a video showing them a number of them ignoring fans in a hotel down.
You mean the cut video that was edited the wrong way?
Yeah.
That one that was edited the wrong way, yeah. The one that was edited the wrong way. The one that the family said it was edited the wrong way.
You didn't say no problem?
No. I haven't seen it, so.
Hi, sir. I think David Moyes said the best way to mark Haaland was to be physical.
I'm not sure I could mark Haaland when I played, and I was the most physical player in the league when I played, like you mean. But yeah, I think that you have to be strong enough to deal with him, yeah, because he can make and use his body weight brilliantly, as well as his talent and his skills, like you mean. So, like I say, I'm more interested in supply. You know, if we can cut the supply down more first, and then when it does come to him, and we limit the amount of times the ball does come to him, we'll have a better chance of dealing with it. And then obviously the players who were there at the time in close proximity don't play with fear, play with a positive attitude. So do your job. If you can just stop him scoring a goal, you don't need to do anything else in that game on Saturday. You don't need to contribute in any other way. Just stop him scoring, and you will have had a fantastic game.
Would you have relished playing against him, Sam?
Well, there were lots of centre forwards like that when I played. Didn't quite score as many goals as that, of course, but like the big ones were all around, like Joe Jordan here with no teeth in, you know what I mean, and Joe Royal, and players like that. Those great battles in them days.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
All, yeah.